Welcome into the Locked On Knicks podcast. I'm Gavin Schall, and tonight we'll take you through another eighth straight, unfortunately, heartbreaking loss to the Brooklyn Nets, Immanuel Quickley's brilliance, and the Knicks' upcoming schedule and how it relates to their playoff positioning right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Knicks, and today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's PrizePicks.com. Promo code Locked On. And who's talking to you? I am Gavin Schall, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster. I want to thank you for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day. We're now available on all platforms, and that includes on YouTube. So if you haven't gone and checked this out on YouTube yet, please go do that. It's a whole lot of fun, and we'd encourage you to like and subscribe so you never, ever miss an episode. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll know this is not my typical setup. I'm recording out of my friend's office in Arizona, where I'm currently on vacation. The New York Knicks were on vacation from playing defense against the Brooklyn Nets. I couldn't come up with anything better than that. A 122-115 loss against the Nets for the New York Knicks. Hard to call it. I know I did in the little teaser. Hard to fully call it a heartbreaker when the Knicks did not deserve to win this game. They were down by 18 in the first half. They were down by 19 in the second half, and the Nets absolutely shredded them with San Antonio Spurs circa 2014 passing and equivalent shooting as well. They finished 22 of 40 from three-point range and just repeatedly put together these back-breaking swing sequences. I mean, the one that stuck with me was Kyrie Irving with about a little less than 2 minutes left in the game, trapped in the corner, opposite wing, throws like a prayer of a cross-court pass to Joe Harris. Joe Harris jumps, redirects it to Seth Curry. Seth Curry hits the three before the shot clock buzzer. And to me, that was kind of the defining summation of this loss for the Knicks. It was sort of the apex of not great defense. It wasn't always terrible for New York, but it was just never enough. And there were, we'll go through examples as we go, but RJ Barrett was absent-minded a lot in this game and just didn't play with enough effort on that end of the floor, which has obviously become a theme for him this season. Julius Randle had plays where he was spacing out, gave up just a wide-open three to Royce O'Neal at one point because of it. And there wasn't just across the board. I mean, Jericho Sims had a Space Cadet play. There wasn't a sense of urgency in terms of executing closeouts, executing switches, executing just about everything. Defensively, this was a team that looked like they were playing at like 85% effort, and a lot of times wanted the credit for effort without actually putting it in, and that was like a lot of like I would call like fake effort closeouts where the shots essentially already up and someone's just then deciding to scramble to the corner. That was I think a very common happening early in the season for the Knicks. Not so much over these last 30 games or so. But tonight it was, maybe there's something about playing Brooklyn. It was back in full force. And then the other side of that coin is there was some ridiculous shot making from the Nets. I mean, what Kyrie Irving did down the stretch of this game, 20 points in the fourth quarter, but particularly the last 2 minutes, right? Had that hockey assist that I mentioned that he essentially created out of thin air, and just hit two back-breaking deep threes, torched Immanuel Quickley in transition on a play where Quickley didn't even play. Bad defense. And it tells you the magic of having a genuine offensive superstar. And it feels weird to say that, right? Because that sounds like a subtweet of either or rather both of Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson. And I'm coming off that Celtics game where I came on here and talked about how, maybe the gap between Randle and those guys isn't as big as we think. And to some extent, I still believe that. And to some extent, I think it's just worth acknowledging that Kyrie, pound for pound, is as talented as any offensive player on earth. Maybe short of Steph. I think I would put them in a similar category in terms of just raw skill, in terms of effort every night, execution. Obviously, Steph in a class of his own. But look, Kyrie's the leading point scorer in the fourth quarter. That in the entire NBA for the whole season. That should tell you something. And I think it is apparent that as incredible as Jalen Brunson is with his efficiency, as outstanding as Julius Randle, and I mean, ESPN flashed the stat on the graphics averaging like 28 points per game since the start of December. That is capital S superstar stuff from Randle. They don't have someone like Kyrie, and I guess that goes both ways in that they don't. I mean, for all the havoc we've had with Julius Randle, it has never quite gotten to the level of what Kyrie Irving has going on in Brooklyn, and that's the understatement of the year. Not even close to that. But it helps to have someone like Kyrie Irving, right? Because that level of shot making, the Knicks haven't had a guy like that ever, which is crazy to say. Beyond that, I want to take a look at where the Knicks are and what's going to happen going forward for the New York Knicks. But first, I got to tell you all about PrizePicks. And the beauty of PrizePicks is you get to invest in your favorite players' production. That is if you genuinely believe in that production. So here's how it works. Tonight, I'm going to take Julius Randle over 24.5 points. I'm going to take RJ Barrett over 6.5 rebounds. I'm taking Jalen Brunson over 4.5 assists. So you pick 2 to 6 players, and if they go score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you go up to 25 times your money on any entry, no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport you can watch. That includes the NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, women's college basketball, soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA, boxing, disc golf, Euro basketball, cricket, and more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKDOWN. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. So don't forget to enter promo code LOCKDOWN and sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. And with that, we are back on Locked On Knicks. As promised, I want to dive deep into the Knicks' playoff positioning. So they are currently the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference at 27-24. They are 1 game in back of the Miami Heat for the 6th seed. They're 3.5 now in back of the Cleveland Cavaliers. For the 5th seed, 4 in back of the Nets for 4, and those are really the only teams that are within striking distance. The Hawks are 1.5 games back of them as the 8th seed, and the Wizards are 3, and the Bulls are 3 as the 9 and 10 seeds, respectively. So for the Knicks, there's a lot of ways to go in both directions, right? Very feasible. They get up to the 6th. I think it's going to be challenging to catch any of Boston, Philly, Milwaukee, Brooklyn. And that's where this Nets game had, I should probably take down the PrizePicks banner. That's where this Nets game had significant implications. Where if the Knicks win this one, they are obviously a whole lot closer, and they have a chance at that tiebreaker with the Nets. Now they could still get it. They have 2 more games left against the Nets this season, if memory serves. But it feels increasingly less likely they're going to get that far up. And if you're going to beat the Nets, you want to beat them, obviously, when they don't have Kevin Durant, because it gets a whole lot harder when he is healthy and well. So as far as the upcoming schedule, the Knicks, I think, despite the loss of Mitchell Robinson, the bare minimum over the next 9 games should be 3-6. I think 4-5 and 5-4 are the most realistic options, right? They get the Lakers at home on Tuesday. They get the Heat at home on Thursday. They get the Clippers at home on Saturday. Sixers at home on Sunday. And you can obviously, this is a very reasonable argument that a homestand is the last thing the Knicks want, given that they are the 2nd best road team in the league, and they're one of 3 or 4 teams in the whole NBA to have a losing record at home this year. That number actually seems too low, but they're certainly one of very few teams that has a winning record and has a losing record at home. That is nearly impossible to do. That Heat game is going to determine a lot, and I think it will show us just how much this team has in the reserves, because, again, this was another night where they looked like a tired team, and it's hard to gauge if that is unique in the NBA right now, if everyone's crashing a little bit before the All-Star break, but it seems at times like this team, and particularly their stars in Brunson and Randall, are fatigued to some extent, or if not, just indifferent defensively. And Miami, if you're indifferent defensively, despite their inconsistencies this year, they will make you pay, and they're going to be extraordinarily hard to score on. The Lakers, that's another tough one in the sense that both LeBron and Anthony Davis are sitting the upcoming game against the Nets, and they will be fresh, and they will have revenge on their mind after the NBA officials' Twitter account came out and said they screwed up the call against the Celtics to end that game. The Clippers, game they could win, game they could lose. I don't really have a great feel for that one. The Clippers are not playing well of late, but eminently losable against Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Then you get 2 out of 3 against the Sixers. You get Philly at home, you get Orlando on the road, then you get Philly on the road. The Knicks the Orlando game is a must win, and if they could somehow split those two with Philly, I think that is a tall task. I think Philly, particularly with no Mitchell Robinson, presumably at that point, is an exceptionally tough matchup for the Knicks. You get the Jazz. I think the Knicks actually match up really well with the Jazz. They should win that. You get the Nets one more time. Big question. That's Monday, February 13th. That is right around the time Kevin Durant should be coming back. Will he be back? I think that will make or break that one. And then you have one more game before the All-Star break, Wednesday, February 15th at Atlanta. That is an absolute must-win for the Knicks. They obviously struggled last time they played the Hawks, but they cannot afford to lose that one. And I don't know. I know it's a little while out, and who knows who's going to be healthy, who knows who's going to be playing, but I have a good feeling about that one. For the Knicks, if I was looking forward, I think the Knicks are in approximately the same position they are right now. I don't think they end up jumping Miami, especially without Mitch. But I think it's completely reasonable that they stay in the 7th seed and they maintain that lead over the Hawks. And we will see if they can get out of the play-in with a really good spurt of play. But to continue on this Nets game, let's start with RJ Barrett, because on paper, right, really good game for him statistically. 9 for 16 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, 3 for 4 from the line, 24 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. But I think this is, I know we all kind of, or maybe not all of us, but some of us crap on Clyde for referencing a plus minus, a single game plus minus as an end all be all statistic. But I think this is pretty telling. Julius Randle, 38 minutes, finished this game plus 6 when the Knicks lost by 7. Jalen Brunson, 37 minutes, still finished this game plus 8 when the Knicks lost by 7. RJ Barrett, 31 minutes, minus 19. I don't think that was a fluke. So we can start off with what he did well. And to me, that was matchup hunting in this game. The Knicks had a significant size advantage at a number of key spots on Brooklyn, who decided without Kevin Durant, as they've been doing of late, to just go out there and play 4 shooters around Nick Claxton. You have an absolutely elite defender in Claxton, worthy contender for Defensive Player of the Year, probably should make an all-defensive team, and Mitchell Robinson's injury will only help lock that up. And you have Royce O'Neal, who's a pretty good defender. And then you have Kyrie, who's talented on that end of the floor, but largely indifferent. You have Joe Harris, who tops out at average, is probably a little bit below that. And then you have Seth Curry, who's a walking turnstile, and you should be able to mow over. And to RJ's credit, in the third quarter, where the Knicks scored 16 points in the paint, RJ had 8 of those, and repeatedly he just took advantage of mismatches with the 3 aforementioned weak points. He had a lefty banker, like jump hook on Joe Harris. He had a really nice move on Kyrie Irving, where Kyrie kind of sneaky strong, like obviously just because of his height, someone you want to post up, but not necessarily as easy as he looks in those situations. But RJ got in with a reverse pivot, 2-step to the rim, righty finish, and then came back down. I think got another one on Seth Curry. That might have been a little earlier in the quarter, and it was good to see, because in the first half, I thought RJ didn't do a good job taking advantage of that. Like, had one play with Seth Curry where he just passed it away, and had another play where, and this is like one of my big pet peeves when this happens. He had Curry on him, which is already the mismatch you want, and then called for a screen from, I can't remember, it was either Hardenstein or Sims, and got Claxton switched on him. So you have one of the worst defenders in the league, and then you call for a screen to get one of the best defenders in the league to switch on you. And it's moments like that where it just feels like guys are, and RJ in particular has been guilty of this at times this year, more so on defense than on offense. But for someone who's a very smart basketball player, like you're clearly not thinking, and you're just kind of operating off of like, I don't know, habit to some extent. And maybe you could argue that's on the screener, like whoever was either Hartenstein or Sims should know just not to come up in that situation no matter what. But that was kind of a mystifying one. But my bigger issue with RJ Barrett in this game was defensively. Had a great block on Seth Curry in the early going, but then just play after play where there just wasn't a lot of effort. I mean, was guarding Edmund Sumner in transition and never really got down into a defensive stance. Sumner, who is a decent player, but as far as NBA rotation players goes on the lower end of things, just blew by RJ for a layup at one point. Had another one in transition where he scored, and then it was like he wanted to get the ball right back, and it was honestly like what you see from like little kids at times in pickup games where they just go racing to the ball out of frustration. And he just ran over to Kyrie Irving to double him. Royce O'Neal, who was scalding in this game, was hitting basically 4-pointers with how deep he was shooting, wide open on the left wing, bangs one home. And it's within, I don't know, what was it, 3 seconds off the shot clock, one pass, about as easy as NBA basketball can get. And again, for RJ, it's kind of like, it feels like emotion over what is actually the right thing to do. And trying to play hero ball defensively. Like we always talk about hero ball. Offensively, that was hero ball defense for RJ. On the positive side of things, I thought Immanuel Quickley had an incredible game for the Knicks. Jalen Brunson did some really good stuff. Julius Randle did some really good stuff. We'll run through everyone on the Knicks to wrap this one up. But before I do that, I mean, it's that time of year, guys. I'm going to tell you a little bit about TurboTax. Go to TurboTax.com and don't do your taxes. Meet with an expert who'll do them for you. TurboTax experts can relieve you from the stress of taxes and file for you so you can do not taxes. Show your eyes things that are not taxes. Personally, I went on a hike today. That was not taxes. You can unpack a moving box of not taxes. Taste not taxes. Sing a lullaby. Hope not taxes sleeps through the night. With TurboTax, an expert will do your taxes from start to finish, ensuring your taxes are done right. Guaranteed, so you can relax. Feels good to be done with your taxes, doesn't it? Come to TurboTax and don't do your taxes. Visit TurboTax.com to learn more. Intuit TurboTax, full service products only, video meeting while expert does your taxes required. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Speaking of a guarantee at this point, it is becoming a guarantee that Immanuel Quickley is going to light your team up. For someone who, through the first 40 games of the season, I think we rightfully had major concerns that his rookie season was a fluke from a three-point shooting perspective. Still fair to have those concerns, still a fairly small sample size, but IQ over the first 41 games of the year shot 33% from three-point range. After a scalding performance against the Nets, he is shooting 41% from distance over his last 10 games. Our guy Tom Piccolo did an even deeper dive. So over IQ's last 15 games, he's averaging 17 points, just under 5 rebounds, 3 assists, less than 1 turnover a game, maybe the most impressive number on the whole list. In 34 minutes a night, 58% from 2-point range, 38% from 3-point range, 43% on catch and shoot threes, 61.3% true shooting percentage, and a plus 80 total plus minus. I think we are. Look, I've called my shot with Quickley before, and there was that incredible stretch his rookie season, right, where the game I always go back to, and I'm sure many of you do, is when he just torched Dame and the Trailblazers. Overtime, and Dame kind of, who's a hero to him, kind of came up to him and be like, "Man, like cool off a little bit." And then the last 5 games of last season, where what was it? He put up like 26 points per game, super efficient. He was getting to the rim, and then he has those bad stretches, and it's kind of similar to RJ. And look, to some extent, it's kind of on us as fans and analysts to realize like this is what young players do, right? They get really hot, they look amazing, and then they hit a wall, and then they make a big leap, and then they hit a wall. Progress is very rarely linear in the NBA. It's kind of cliched. We say it all the time. Everyone says it all the time, but it is very much a truism. But what I'm seeing from Quickley right now feels sustainable. Not necessarily how well he's shooting. I personally think over time he averages out and is probably somewhere around a 36, 37% three-point shooter, which And there's a difference, right, between 3-point shooting talent and actual 3-point shooting, right? Like if he's on the Nets and he's getting some of the shots that Seth Curry gets, he probably is a 40% 3-point shooter. But on this Knicks team where a lot of it's self-created, like even in this game, like a lot of it was dribble handoffs where he was shooting from 28 feet, or he had one. I love that him and Hartenstein are really developing a nice chemistry on this, where Quickley will be like kind of deep on the wing. Hartenstein will post up top of the key. IQ will throw it to Hartenstein, and even though he's done it a bunch, defenses don't seem to see it coming. It just all of a sudden burst of speed. iHeart just tosses it right back to him and quickly just bombs one in from 30 feet out. So the shooting, I think, will fluctuate a little bit, just because if you're taking those kind of attempts, if you're not a Kyrie Irving or a Steph Curry, it is extraordinarily difficult and rare, and honestly somewhat fluky to be a 40% 3-point shooter. What really encourages me about Quickley continues to be his defense, and perhaps even more so his ability to get to the rim. Like he had this one play, we had a between the legs crossover. He starts off on the right wing, right? Gets back to the middle of the floor, top of the key, hesitates, and then bursts to the rim. And what really stands out is, so many times as a rookie, first of all, not even as a rookie, really his second year, but as a rookie, he kind of knew that he didn't have it in his back, so he didn't even take layups. Second year, kind of gets more ambitious with layups, gets his stuff swatted a whole bunch. This season is making layups that are closely contested. Of late, though, he's been getting real separation between him and defenders, and that is with hesitations, with his ability to drive almost at a right angle and how low he can get, and his flexibility, and then his explosiveness, like around the basket, which is still like, I don't know if it's even average for an NBA point guard. I would say it's probably below that, but considering he was, I don't know, like bottom 5 percentile in the league, maybe that's even generous. Like he's amongst the worst in the league in that category amongst point guards. When he first came into the NBA, that is for Immanuel Quickley. All right, so that's IQ. Jalen Brunson in this one, another kind of slow start for a guy who I think the brilliance of Brunson this year has generally been that, like, he doesn't, like, it's just in the consistency, right? Like he doesn't really have slow starts. Like he's productive every quarter of every game, on and on and on and on. And we mentioned him running into a wall, but give him credit in this one. 26 points, 4 assists, hyper efficient, 10 for 19 from 2. Missed the only 2 threes he took, but going 6 for 6 from the line. And like, this was a weird game. I take like 3 pages of notes during these games. I wrote down 2 things on Brunson the whole game. It just sort of felt typical for him. And a lot of the points he was getting, like, kind of came in pseudo garbage time. Like he got, I think, 6 inside the final minute, where the Nets were basically giving him layups, but did have a really good stretch late in the third where the Knicks were making their big run. They were down by 18 points at one point in the third, cut it all the way down to 8 with Brunson recording 2 different and ones, including one where he just blew by Yuta Watanabe and then danced around Edmund Summer, put in just a really tough floater. Ability to create space, still brilliant. Shot making, still brilliant. Kind of a typical Brunson game, but honestly, given what Kyrie was doing, like I wanted Brunson to get a little fire in his eyes and kind of try to match Kyrie shot for shot and in terms of his creation ability, and that just did not happen in this one. Kyrie, like, outside the 32 points, put that aside, also had 9 assists, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, and just, honestly, if this was a game for which one of those 2 gets in the All-Star game, and it could come down to the 2 of them potentially, like you'd have to, like, you could certainly make the argument the off the court and being like the biggest and one of the worst stories in the NBA in recent years justifies Kyrie being excluded, but player for player, like, Kyrie outshined him in this one. That sucks to say. Julius, mixed night from him. I mentioned the spaciness defensively from Julius at points in this one, which is always super frustrating. Also had a play where he fought with Jericho Sims for a rebound, which really just bothers me. Like the only thing that bothers me more, I think, is when Julius insists on taking technical free throws when he's the 3rd or 4th best free throw shooter on the court. That's annoying. Him fighting for rebounds and letting the other team get the ball, that really sucks. His passing remains fantastic, though, and his ability to draw it. It's the same sequence over and over again. He draws a mismatch, pulls his way to the middle of the floor, recognizes the second defender is going to come. hits a three-point shooter. One play was Quentin Grimes. One play was RJ Barrett. He did it over and over and over again. And just the patience around the rim is at a rare level this year. And his insistence at getting to the basket, not taking no for an answer. When in past years he said, you know what, I kind of want to just take a mid-range shot anyways. This year it is pivoting 2, 3, 4 times on Nick Claxton, using his strength to move Claxton and then just finishing at the basket. And it was cool to see Randle go after a guy who may well end up winning Defensive Player of the Year this season. He was at points the only reason the Knicks were in this game, particularly in the third quarter when the Nets were just raining threes and the Knicks were kind of responding like, all right, that's your game. Our game is bullying you inside. In that sense, Julius Randle kind of emerges as the face of this team, even maybe surpassing Brunson in that respect at points. Quentin Grimes, mixed bag from him. I've been a little bit, and I've said it on the pod, I've been disappointed overall in his play the last 20 games or so. I expected more from him as a three-point shooter. We noted Quickley getting really hot the last 10 games. Grimes going the opposite direction, shooting 34.5% from three in January after hitting 39% of his threes in December. Also missed a wide open layup in this game. Did have a couple of really big offensive rebounds in the fourth quarter, one for a putback layup, one for an awesome putback dunk on a Quickley three that just went in and out. Defensively, like he was solid in this game, did all he could on Kyrie. Kyrie is just, he's an impossibly tough matchup, right? Like there's not, like you could throw Drew Holiday out there. There's not really a defender on earth that is absolutely shutting down Kyrie Irving. The three balls need to start going in, just 2 for 17. And I thought Doris Burke had an interesting comment on Grimes. She said he was kind of rushing his attacking of closeouts, and that was an area, right, where he was as good as anyone in the NBA early this season. And it is faltered just a little bit the last couple of games or so, like had one tonight where he got by the closeout as he seems to do almost automatically, but then tried to force a slip pass inside instead of jump stopping, taking a beat and seeing that. I think it was RJ Barrett was wide open in the left corner, and that ended up being a turnover. And then the other way he's rushing, which I've said a couple of times, is his three-point shot in clutch situations. Like Randle had that kick out to him. It was to make it, this was in the last 2 minutes. It was to make it either a 2 or I think it was to make it a 2-point game. Maybe it was to make it a 1-point game. Might have been when the Knicks were down 4 and Grimes stepped back into it. There was no one within 15 feet of him. And we saw Joe Harris and Royce O'Neal and Seth Curry for the Nets. Like Harris and Curry, all-time shooters, and Royce O'Neal, a very good one. And they took their time on those shots. They were patient, set their feet, stroked it. And Grimes just seems to put this pressure on himself to and it's almost this internal feeling of if I wait, if I take my time, it's going to look ugly if I miss it. So let me just rush it. And he does that. He's done that a bunch the last few games. It feels like he's, what is he, like 1 for his last 7 or 8, like shooting threes inside the last 2 minutes. Like it's not a good look right now. Jericho Sims had some good offensive rebounds in this game, finished with 5 of them. So that was awesome, but just got clowned by Claxton at points. Claxton finished with 13, 12, and 6 in this game. That was a total mismatch. Deuce, it feels like it's just so hard for Deuce to score the basketball. Like nothing really seems to come easy for him. And that's a bummer because he is an absolutely elite defensive player. Quick shout out to Isaiah Hartenstein, 8 points, 5 boards, 2 assists in just 20 minutes. I would have preferred if he got a little bit more time over Jericho Sims. I'm sure there's stuff that Tibbs is seeing defensively with Sims that and just more of a similarity to the Mitch that is keeping him with the starting lineup. But I think the starters honestly could have used the verve that Hartenstein provides as a passer and at least like a nominal spacer compared to someone like Sims. Because so often when Sims is out there, the Knicks are playing 4-on-5. And not that Hartenstein, like he before this week was coming off just a horrifically bad stretch of offensive basketball. But he seems to be finding a stride again. Like he attacked like a couple of mismatches for jump hooks. Had I think this maybe was one of the first times I saw this from him all year, like a rip through from the top of the key on Day'Ron Sharp, a lefty drive to the lane for a layup. That was encouraging. Really nice effort for him. Obi Toppin, MIA in this one, finished with 4 points. Had one play where he ran down the court, had one play where he got a nice seal on Joe Harris, but just not exactly what you want from Obi Toppin. So that's it for this episode of Locked On Knicks. Thank you so much for tuning in. As I said before, I'm on vacation, so Alex will take you through this week and most of next week, but then after that we'll be back for regularly scheduled programming on this show. But remember to like, subscribe. I haven't said this in a while, so I'll throw it out there. Leave us a nice review on iTunes. That completely makes my day. So if you like the show, yeah, we'd really appreciate that. Here on Locked On Knicks. But until next time, I'm Gavin. We'll talk to you soon. Peace out.